Hello, welcome back. It's Tolkien with Friends, and today we are excited to be welcoming back Myla to help us
Yay!
finish
Hi.
the extended edition of The Hobbit, The Desolation of Smaug, and to discuss Chapter 12, Inside Information. I don't know about you guys, but I had some just overall thoughts, and I'm like, maybe I'll just get out my negative thoughts first. And
All
then
right.
maybe I don't know. I
Let's
just
have them, Andie.
Go for it.
as like obviously Smog is done so well. Like love him in the book
Mm.
Hmm.
and then his coming to life on the screen. I thought that they did that super well. Like in terms of the way he looks and the voice acting by Benedict Cumberbatch and like even the writing for him because like I do have other thoughts about the writing in this part, but I felt like even when he was off script, he was still pretty much Smaug. Like he didn't feel like suddenly a different dude. You know what I mean? It
Hmm.
was all like stuff I could believably,
Yeah, he
you
didn't
know.
just start
Let's
using like
slide. Yeah.
modern vernacular or anything, right? Like he
Yeah.
kept his
And
old ancient sort of feel.
yeah, he kept
Still
his
a
vibe.
dragon. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. Still a dragon.
Still a dragon.
Like suddenly just like a hobbit. But I felt pretty good about Smaug.
Hmm.
His word choice and like even his mannerisms and things. Even when it like gets ridiculous with like the circumstances around Smaug, I still felt that he was still like holding it down. You know what I
Hmm.
mean? And really Smaug and his scene with Bilbo are really like the only parts of this section that I found not I don't want to
Hmm.
say good, I'm going to say engaging because there was a lot of this where I was like it's fine, but I'm not like compelled to
There's
watch.
a lot. Like
Mm-hmm.
there's a giant gold statue. There's walnuts. There's the orc and Legolas scene. There's a lot going on.
Yeah, and it's just
That was
kind of
really just supposed to be like Bilbo and Smaug, and then it
mm-hmm.
exploded into like five different storylines in one.
It did, and it's like I was just thinking, like, sure, I think that this works in terms of like having something like fun or wacky that you just like kind of have on in the background and then you can like be doing something else and then you look up and be like, oh, that's what they're doing now.
That's literally what I did today. I was like putting away my laundry, like paying attention to the Bilbo parts, and then other
Yeah.
things happen. I'm like, okay, back to folding.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's exactly what this movie is. And as far as something that like transports me or like grabs my attention, the way that I feel about the original trilogy where I'm like I'm in it, like even if I'm casually watching The Lord of the Rings, which I do on occasion, even when it's not me trying to be like, sucked in, I get sucked in. Like it's just
It's
how it
always a
is.
casual watch. Like, I'm just gonna have it on in the
I'm
background,
just
and
gonna
then
have
you
it
just
on
sit
and then
there.
it's a
Yeah.
marathon.
Yeah.
The Hobbit, it's
No,
kind of
yeah, I
like
get it.
I'm kind of like I could pause this at any point and walk away and not feel like bad about it. And I don't mean to like shit all over the Hobbit. I truly truly don't. But I found the writing like outside of the Smog and like Bilbo bits, I found the writing really lazy. And so I just checked out like so fast. Like it was so self-referential. Like right at the beginning, for example, Beaufort it's like not only does he know that what Ethelas/Kingsfoil is, but he asks Bard for it to help Keeley because, Morgul arrow situation. And Bard responds, "It is a weed." And then, obviously they amp it up by saying, "We feed it to our pigs." But, this is obviously like the Sam and Aragorn moment in Fellowship where he's like, "Kingsfoil, it's a weed."
Normally, I'm a sucker for any reference to the Lord of the Rings film, but
It's
that I
so
was
heavy-handed.
like really?
Yeah, I mean, it's like
Yeah.
and then they tried to make
Hmm.
it not just even a reference, but like to try to make it like even goofier. But then in the immediate
Hmm.
next scene, Bilbo is talking to Balin and he's saying like he'll go in the mountain, he feels like he should. And Balin says that the courage of hobbits never ceases to amaze him. And I was unaware that Balin knew very many other hobbits.
Just
And
all he needs is Bilbo. That's
I
all
know,
the
and
example he needs.
but
Yeah.
But mostly, like, this sounds an awful lot like how they rewrote one of Gandalf's lines for Fellowship when he says, "Hobbits really are amazing creatures. You can learn all there is to know about them in a day, and yet after 100 years, they can still surprise you." And I'm just like, I think they even play similar music when Balin is
Yeah,
saying
Balin's like
this.
the grandpa, like the cheerful, like, the comforting guy, and they kind
Yeah.
of had him fill that role. And you do hear the Shire theme in
Mm-hmm.
the background, which tugs at my heartstrings no matter what context, if I'm being honest.
Yeah, but I
But
mean, I just feel
yeah,
like this part is sprinkled with moments like this. Like we even have like Tariel suddenly glowing when she's doing the
yeah, that
elvish stuff.
that was
It
a
was
little bit too
like
much.
I was like, guys,
Hmm.
the context is important. Like
Yeah.
when Arwen shows up and she's like kind of glowy, it's like her entrance moment. You know what I mean? And
Hmm.
it's not like and it's like an inner thing. It isn't like suddenly it just like they add glow effect to it. I mean, I know that they do, but do you know what I mean? It felt more of like a inner thing rather than just like suddenly she's not
Hmm.
glowing. And then now she is glowing because she's saying elvish words, which is like, so wouldn't they just be constantly glowing? I
So like she's a healer. Like are all elves just naturally can use king's foil? Like
yeah,
I don't know.
it was just it was a lot. I just felt like there was a lot of that happening. I feel even with the whole like Thorin trying to say that he's not his grandfather. I'm like, okay, is this like Aragorn not being a Isildur?
Yes,
Also,
it
you
was.
know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like it just felt I'm like it almost was like, hey guys, do you remember this was also in these other movies that you really like? So you liked it then, so
We're gonna recreate
surely
it for you
you'll like
now.
it now.
I know.
Yeah.
I'm also thinking like, did they just need to make up scenes? Because it went from like 2 movies to three. Do you
Hmm.
remember like when that was announced?
Yes.
Like all hell
Mm.
broke loose on the
Yeah.
internet. So did they just
Absolutely.
need to like add things in to stretch it even more?
Maybe.
Did
But
we
then
need
it's also
like a
like
Killiel like healing scene? I don't know.
I don't think so.
When his head is on a bowl of walnuts.
Yeah. And it also made me sad because then we have things like that moment when Thorin is trying to be like, no, I'm not my grandfather. But then he's also saying, I will not risk this mission or quest for the life of one burglar. And I felt like that was, I mean, he hasn't even seen the gold yet, you guys. And he's already trying to they're trying to also write him crazy. Like,
Mhm.
suddenly we're obsessed with the Arkenstone, and I know that they've rewritten the the backstory of the Arkenstone in these movies, but still it's like you haven't even seen it, my guy, and you're already acting weird. But it also feels in direct opposition to the way Thorin actually behaves in the books, because for example, in the book Bilbo goes down to see Smaug twice. In the first one, which we kind of have combined it all into one, like he's sleeping and Bilbo is able to kind of see him like all just laid out, and he steals a cup, and that's what wakes Smog up. Also he's having a bad dream and takes the one
Mhm.
two-handled cup, and the dwarves are like, oh, this is amazing, like great job. And later, so Smog wakes up and they hear him not being too happy. He comes out and they're like freaking out and they're like, oh shit, all of our stuff. And also Bomber,
Yeah.
and who was the other one that was down there
Biffer?
with him? Yeah,
Who said
like
it? Was it Boffers, like my cousins or
yeah,
something?
it
Yeah.
was another one of the B names. I just know it was Bomber because like we talked about the rope previously.
Maybe Biffer.
Yeah.
Who else is a B?
I think you're right. It was one of them.
And
So
all their
they're
ponies, yeah.
all their ponies, which we really couldn't do anything about. But what I liked about that is that, they're all like suddenly they're all kind of like shaking in their boots and like, oh no, like there's nothing we can do. And Thorin is like, nonsense. Like, okay, Bilbo, Balin, Keely, and Feely, because they are there in, the book. Get in the tunnel, like get in the doorway. He's not gonna get all of us. And then the rest of them go and like pull Bomber and the the rest of the guys and some of their supplies up with the rope. And basically like just in the nick of time get away from Smaug's first kind of attack on that side of the mountain. And I just felt like his focus on like getting everybody out of that situation was so nice. That was so pleasant, like I was like, he really stepped up, that he is the leader, and he kind of showed it in that moment. But then in the
Not
movie
grumpy all the time.
version, in the movie version, he's very like, now he's like Arkenstone. I don't know.
And in the book, he even stands up for Bilbo. Has come out from his first encounter with the dragon. I think it was the first, or maybe it was the second. Second, I think. And he's feeling very grumpy. He's very cross because he's just risked his life. And he sees that bird listening to him, and he throws a stone at it. And Thorin's like, no, don't hurt the bird.
Yeah.
I know, and Bilbo's like, how the hell do you think I'm gonna take out all this treasure? Have you seen it?
Yeah, like they're like, oh, all right. Well,
okay, well, I guess you have a point. Yeah.
I love that they always kind of back off when Bilbo is ranting at them. Like, they'll just like, oh, fair. Didn't think of it like that.
Yeah.
So, that's like my general feelings up front. I just felt like I don't want to be negative about it, but it just kind of felt hollow in this bit. Like, I like the Smaug. I like when Martin Freeman is able to do his thing, but also like that era, it was like Martin Freeman, Benedict Cumberbatch, just time with Sherlock and everything. So it was cute to have them also together in a sense.
Yeah.
But really, besides that, I was just kind of like, I just don't know if I care so much anymore. Like, it's just, there's just so much going on at all times, and there's hardly any downbeats, it's kind of just I'm not like sucked in or glued to my screen in any way. I don't know how you guys are feeling.
And they try to get you to feel so bad for Keely and Tariel being star-crossed lovers. And like, what gets me when they like touch fingers, it's like Aidan Turner's real hand. Whereas normally dwarves have these like thick, like sausage fingers.
Yeah.
But like for that close-up, it needed to be pretty hands touching another pretty hand.
Hands.
Like, do you think she could have loved me? I'm like, where is this coming from, guys? You saw each other for how long?
Yeah.
In a jail cell. And
literally in the movie version, we know they were only there for like one night. It's not even like they planted them in there for the 2 weeks, like in the book, Is
Kelly like, is he an adult dwarf?
Yeah. They're all actually pretty old, but they're just the youngest.
Because I was like gonna give him an excuse. Oh, he's still like considered young, but like they're all like adults, right? But I guess in the movie he's like the baby of the group.
Yeah.
Nothing against Tariel herself exactly.
No.
The way they force her and Killy to.
Yeah. I think that they had a lot of other potential things that they could have done with Tariel.
I know, when I was watching it, I completely forgot about the fight with Legolas and Bolg.
Yeah, I always forget his name is Bolg.
Skipped over that.
I know.
Every time he appears on screen, I'm like, I forgot you existed. Right, you're here. You're Azog's
and like
son.
The insane like eyes of Legolas is also kind of hard.
Just can't look away. Just like
it's
laser
like,
beams. They were so bright.
Yeah, and I'm like, this isn't what. And also, but like, why? Because they don't do that in the original. Like, what? His eyes toned down after how many?
He looks like so wholesome with his dark eyes. Sometimes they're blue, but not like, Great British Bake Off.
Yes,
they're not like blue. His eyes. Yeah, but like they made it look like that. Just so icy cold. And like he's looking at his blood. He's like, I've never seen me bleed before.
Yeah, don't make me bleed my own blood.
I didn't know I could bleed.
Yeah, it almost makes him like I get that he's not human, but if I said like it takes away like his humanity or expressiveness, maybe that's what I want to say. We can also get into specifics of this episode, this chapter, what actually happens, because I think that there's some other kind of more nuanced differences that I wanted to point out, and I also just want to talk about the book more. So we're gonna do that. So when we ended the book and the movie last time, the team had just opened the secret door on the side of the mountain, and they were staring into the dark tunnel within. In the movie, there's also an inscription on the inside of the tunnel, like above the door, that references the Arkenstone, which they say is why they needed a burglar, apparently. And now, if you've listened this far, you know that they have, changed the narrative around the Arkenstone in the movie, so it's no longer, it's not just like a magnificent gem that everybody is like, that is a nice piece
Rock.
of gem. Yeah.
A nice
That
shiny
is a
rock.
nice
Yeah.
rock. Yeah. It's but now it's like a way to like claim the throne and unite all the dwarves under one banner, which is no one really needs to do. But apparently
work for a rock.
Yeah.
I'm just trying to imagine all of the dwarves like chanting over just the Arkenstone.
Yeah, and
Like
they're also
without
like
yeah.
the implication that the dwarves have one king rather than kings of
Just one.
multiple realms. I'm like the humans of Middle Earth are they don't even have one king. Like there's also Theoden. You know what I mean? Like there's also Rohan has a king. But the idea that like all these different clans of dwarf would answer to one specific king.
Thorin.
Yeah, it's
I don't know what
it's a little weird.
It's because now I'm thinking of movie Thorin. I'm like, really, that's the guy?
That's the guy.
That's your king?
That's your guy. But it's just funny because it's like nobody else is doing that in Middle Earth. So like it's one of those things that they changed that like really feels made up.
Sorry, Thorin, you can't be king because you don't have a nice rock.
Like you could be king of your area, but like the Iron Hills have their own thing, and if Moria was a thing, they would have their own thing. And I don't even know what the leader over there in like the Blue Mountains would. I'm sure they have somebody organizing things, but yeah, not everybody. But whatever. So that's what the movie chose to do. What I really find interesting here, though, is how differently Bilbo approaches entering the dragon's horde. At the beginning of the chapter, Thorin gives kind of a speech to basically say that now it's time for Bilbo to get to burglaring. In the movie, when he's told to go find the Arkenstone, I feel like Bilbo was very chill about it. He was like, I promised I would do this, and I think I must try. He's very like, sure, guys. I promise is a promise. Also, they are not talking about the impending danger within. Bilbo just walks right in, starts climbing around on that gold. But in the book, I love book Bilbo. He's a little spicier.
He's great.
He says, if you mean you think it is my job to go into the secret passage first, O Thorin Thrain's son, Oakenshield, may your beard grow ever longer, he said crossly. Say so at once and have done. I might refuse. I have got you out of 2 messes already, which were hardly in the original bargain, so that I think, already owed some reward, but 3rd time pays for all, as my father used to say, and somehow I don't think I shall refuse. Perhaps I have begun to trust my luck more than I used to in the old days. He meant last spring before he left his own house, but it seemed centuries ago. But anyway, I think I will go and have a peep once and get it over. And so I just love this. Like, Bilbo has done this before, where he will complain about something before ultimately just doing it anyway, and I really speaks to a part of me.
I just love that he's like standing up for himself now.
Absolutely. And also
we went
just
from
reminding
Bilbo
them
like squeaking and shaking on his own mat to like Bilbo like standing up for himself and being
yeah.
I love him, yeah.
I love it. And it's also like, again, we're seeing so many different sides of Bilbo throughout this whole book, and really now he's stepped up time and again, but really now he's kind of like, you can't, like, don't play like I didn't already earn part of this treasure that you're somehow gonna get out of this mountain. So good for Bilbo. And then the movie casually walks through the tunnel into the just starts immediately getting to that goal. The book, I really like how you get more of a sense and understanding of how long this tunnel is. It takes Bilbo a good chunk of time to get, because they're on the side of the mountain, like they've climbed up. I wouldn't say at the top or anything, but they've climbed up to a point, and now he's got to get from there all the way to the root of the mountain. So not just like to the ground level. He's going deeper than that. It's like the lowest point that they've built. I think they even refer to it as a dungeon at one point. What I think is interesting is that once Bilbo gets into the the gold, and he gives them a minute to kind of explore around before he ultimately reveals Smaug. And Tolkien, like, once we get on the other side of that door, boom, Smaug is there. But he does take his time in building up to said sleeping dragon. We hear what Bilbo hears, which is the unmistakable gurgling noise of some vast animal snoring in its sleep. And we see a kind of glow coming from the doorway and an otherwise dark passageway. And we feel that it begins to get warm, as we make our way to the bottom. And, stuff like this is really what makes reading the book so great to me. You're really feeling what Bilbo is feeling in that moment. You're along for the ride with him. You're able to kind of engage all of the senses in a way rather than just visuals. And another point that is so crazy to me is that, like, movie Bilbo, he's just like, yeah, sure, I promise, so I'll go. And there's like no hesitation, and they do not talk about the point of a dragon being in there before going in. Like, how is that not like the top of your mind?
Yeah, when the dwarves knew, but I think they weren't really telling Bilbo too.
Yeah, they weren't being like, hey buddy, just careful in there, because whole ass dragon that remember when we told you story about way back in?
He's real. He's there.
And so Tolkien writes here that going from there, like on the other side of the door, was the bravest thing that Bilbo ever did. The tremendous things that happened afterwards were as nothing compared to it. He fought the real battle in the tunnel alone before he ever saw the vast danger that lay in wait. And I'm just like, that's so human. It's something that I think we can all relate to when there's something scary that we're about to do. Probably not facing a dragon, but that moment when before you actually take that last step, before you actually make the call to do something, or actually take the action that you're afraid of, you kind of catches in your throat before you do it. And I just really like those descriptions like that you can't really capture in a movie anyway. So I like that about the book.
No, I thought that was an amazing moment, and it just like goes to show that as humans, like, when stuff happens to us, we deal with them, but the greatest battles are sometimes fought alone in our own minds, right? Our own selves are often what are holding us back rather than like exterior things. So I just thought that was great writing. It was like,
I know,
great insight from Tolkien.
And that's one of the benefits really of sitting with Bilbo in these moments that we don't get in the movies, because as we've talked about, they're called The Hobbit, but it's not really about our guy. But he's the best part.
I know.
And Martin
very much
Freeman
dwarven
is so
central.
good. Yeah, it is.
His mannerisms were pretty great. He did a great job.
And so
like just him looking around in the treasure, like I was laughing.
Yeah.
Like when they're moving, he's like measuring how big Smaug is.
Yeah. Like
he does that like little sit thing. He's like moving.
Like, okay, well, that's happening.
I know. Like when he sees like I did think it was funny that they decided to cover Smaug up with gold. Like I was like, okay.
He was so cozy.
I know. Yeah. I was like, I can see it. Rather than just like laying on top of it, like he's kind of described in the book. I think that was fun to kind of like pop his eye out. But the fact that Bilbo isn't wearing the ring, like, I get it. I think that they were dealing with the issue of like I know that Tolkien does describe it as kind of having this like weird effect on your vision, because obviously you're partially out of the real world when you're wearing the ring. But of course, when you're reading it, even with him saying that early on, like, and he's talking to Smaug, like that description never comes back really. So like in my head, Bilbo is able to be invisible and just see everything, and so I think they were struggling with Bilbo like wearing it and being invisible, and then like also talking to Smaug and not showing it like that. But at the same time, hardly any of this is from Bilbo's perspective movie wise, so like who cares? Just because he's wearing the ring, like, do we really have to do the whole like weird effect on everything?
Mm-hmm.
That kind of hurts it a little bit. Like, it's just like, I don't need to see Smaug all I don't even know what the like how to describe that effect that they do.
I understand though, I got it.
Yeah, thank you, Myla.
That's how we're gonna describe it from now on. The ring world. Yeah.
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 Because it makes everything have this like, I don't know, weird wind-blown effect.
The noise effect describes it perfectly, actually. Yeah.
I don't know how, if you ever wanted to like capture this, I don't know how you would write that out. But just mouth noises, I guess. Other than that, I thought the scene with them is really funny. Even when like, see, I like the subtle humor, like not so much the like stuff. I think you were here last time, Milo, when we were talking about like Keely making a joke about something being in his pants. Like that's too much. But then when Smaug like gets right up in Bilbo's face and Bilbo kind of goes like
yeah.
I like that. I think that's subtle and cute of like, stinky dragon breath, which it totally would be. We know that Tolkien loves his villains to be a little bit stanky. Like, there's even a point where it says that Sauron's breath is stanky. So, like, everybody be stanky.
Dragon breath is rank.
Yeah.
100% fact, yeah.
I just imagine, like, an unbrushed dog mouth times a million.
See, that's funny. It doesn't give you the ick, you know?
Yeah, it's just a little, it's just a tiny hand movement. And it's, no one said anything. Obviously, it's not going to offend Smaug. And, they do change up the scene a little bit, but they do keep it pretty much like what they talk about, and like the order changes a little bit because they have things move around a little bit more, but they still get like the riddling. I like that in the book that it kind of, obviously it explains a little bit that that's kind of how you have to talk to dragons, because obviously you don't want to tell them your business because they're just going to use it against you, but you also can't outright refuse, otherwise you're going to get eaten. So Bilbo does just like kind of do that. Obviously we don't really get like the context of why. I think that you just kind of get it in the movie about why you're not just going to like say it. But yeah, I do think their back and forth is quite nice.
I know Bilbo listing all his titles, one of my favorite passages like of all time in Tolkien. Like, he just sounds like a badass now. Like, he went from like this little hobbit in the Shire, now he's like listing everything he's done. So proud of him. So proud.
And so obviously this is, in the book, this is his second time seeing Smaug, because as we were talking about, he comes back with the cup. Smaug, one of the things that Tolkien says is that dragons know their wealth to the ounce as a rule, and Smaug was no exception. And so when he realizes the cup is gone, also one of my favorite descriptions of rage maybe ever, he says that Smaug's rage was the sort of rage that is only seen when rich folk that have more than they can enjoy suddenly lose something that they have long had but have never before used or wanted. And what's kind of sad is that we all know exactly who that person is. We all have had that experience. So that's the kind of Smaug mad that he is when he goes, and that's when he decides to eat their ponies, and he just kind of blasts the side of the mountain with fire before going back inside and being like, don't worry, I can wait, I'll smoke these fuckers out. And later in the light of day, the dwarves feel better about everything. Smaug is very much still a problem, but Bilbo's like, I've got my ring, I'll just sneak down there and see if he's still sleeping. But he is not. He's pretending to sleep, which I think Bilbo should have been tuned into by the fact that he wasn't really snoring. He's doing like the quiet fake sleep thing. But yesterday he was snoring up a storm when he didn't know you were there. So he wasn't really relaxed, and he was keeping his eye on that door, and he, could smell the difference when Bilbo was there, even though he couldn't see him, which I also thought was cool. Then their whole riddle thing takes place. So Bilbo gives some like parting shots before he ends up walking away. So he's like, well,
tries to get a little too spicy.
Yeah, he's like, well, gotta go. This was great.
It was something about like ponies are hard to catch if they've had a head start, and so
yeah, because he's, he gets him to show, like, obviously, like and also in the movie, they give a different reason for why Smaug has this scale that's missing, or like, wow, that's this exposed patch, something about like the king.
Well, I
completely the Men of
forgot
Dale.
Speaking of the movie, I forgot about the whole Bard storyline. That's another one.
I know.
But anyway,
I know.
Yeah.
Yeah, like they gave his family a reason to like they tried to kill him, but it didn't work. Also eliminating the need for the thrush, which devastated by that. Like they have the thrush knock because they have to, but as far as like the thrush being a messenger and listening to Bilbo describe this vulnerability of Smaug's and then going to tell Bard later, they cut it because basically they already know that he's got the, his grandpa or whoever was the one that put the chink in his armor with the stupid black arrow thing. And so, they've also got Bard running around in here. And when they keep cutting back and forth between like Dol Guldur and Lake Town.
Yeah, there's a lot going on.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. And he says ponies take some catching, I believe, after a long start, and so do burglars. And that causes Smaug. He can't get. And they don't. And I kind of wish they had done this because the way that the tunnel ends in the movie, it's like stairs and stuff. Like it's not just like a hole in the wall of the floor. Because I really wanted to see Smaug like try to get his face in there, which reminds me of like Ike whenever he hears like something in the wall, like he would like tries to get in there, but he can only get his nostrils into this door. So that kind of, I think, also gives some perspective about how big his head is. But he's able to like send some fire through his nostrils after Bilbo, which gets the back of his head. But I get it. They didn't want Martin Freeman to have partially bald for the rest of the movie. But I think they do get Thorin at one point when his cloak or whatever, which he just like kind of stop, drop, and rolls. And
it was a literally stop, drop, and roll situation. Yeah.
But they all have like just way too much hair for this
so much
situation.
Hair.
I feel like just facial hair and like head hair, and they're just like little candles running around.
Yeah. As far as Smaug is concerned, absolutely. So I thought that was cute. But then because we've kind of all smushed those moments into two, and obviously there isn't even any escaping back up into the tunnel, they just pursue Smaug because Thorin comes after him for this Arkenstone thing. But what he does, the real reason that I also think it's funny because Smaug in the movie is this close to Bilbo, and Bilbo's like, no, you can't go after the guys at Lake Town. And he's like, oh, you care about them, do you? So I'm gonna go eat them even harder. But in the book, he waits, and Bilbo gets really nervous after that last encounter. He's like, I know Smaug is coming for this door. He understands that there's dwarves here and that they're coming. He's trying to lull us into a false sense of security, and he's like begging them to shut the door. And finally they do it because they're like, okay, calm down. And that is when he doesn't just blow fire onto it this time. He just destroys that side of the mountain, just knowing that that's approximately where they are. And then he feels pretty good about that. He lets his rage out, and he's like, oh, feel better. And he's like, but Barrel Rider, like this guy, if he's not a man, he absolutely had help from those guys at Lake Town. So I'm going to show them who the real king under the mountain is. And so they do throw that line to Smaug when he's talking to Thorin in the movie, like right before he kind of dips out and shakes it, I think it was right before the molten gold part, and he shakes it off, and then he does the whole I am fire.
What's the goal of that, by the way?
I think they thought that would kill him.
He's a dragon.
I know.
It was like the last 20 minutes of them building up to this great like countermeasure against Smaug, and then it's like
that
was it.
Yeah.
That's what I was sitting in the theater waiting for. Just the
and
statue that melts.
I was thinking about this while I was watching it, and I was like, okay, sure, like maybe they felt like audiences really would be happy enough with Thorin and crew just like not trying to do something about Smaug. I think that we're also not, Peter doesn't really focus on the fact that like how small these guys would be in comparison to Smaug. Like obviously Smaug is very big, but like they don't, I mean, just realistically, there's no way that they could have done anything. There's only 14 of them, you know? And, you know, we lose the bit where Bilbo is like, hey, like, there's no way, like, you would need like 1 billion warriors to go after this guy. And even if he wasn't there, it would take 1 billion years for me to get all this gold out. Like, he's like, I don't really know what you expect me to do.
No.
And so, like, the dwarves don't have a plan. This was the largest flaw in their whole escapade. Like, they did not plan how they were going to do it. They were just going to show up and hope for the best, and that's really what they do. And so they get trapped inside the mountain. Obviously, they are not trapped. And I was like, at one point, I was like, well, maybe Peter just really wanted to show us more of what was inside of Erebor. But you know, in the book, if he'd stuck closer to the book, that would have happened after they finally ventured out of the tunnel. So it's not like there wasn't an opportunity to do it, but I guess if, you know, Peter in these movies, like whoever decided that these movies needed constant battle scenes, I have questions.
And then them going into like trying to find the exit and then finding that like room full of corpses. It was just so Moria. It was like, we cannot get out. They're coming. We cannot get out.
Again, with the self-referential stuff, it feels very lazy. And there is also a part of this thing where it's like, this feels like somebody wrote a D&D campaign or a video game based on The Hobbit. You know, like how video games can really kind of get away with a lot of weird shit just for like, so you have more stuff to do. It feels more like that rather than them trying to make an adaptation. And I don't know, like maybe if that's your thing, that's cool, but it's like I feel like I went in with the expectation of something and then we walked away with something completely different.
I did like though when they revealed the big gold statue and Smaug is just entranced.
I felt like that was accurate.
Real nice.
Such cute little puppy eyes. He's like, eh?
He's like pretty. Shiny. I feel like that is, and that's the thing, when they wrote Smaug, even when they go way off script like that with this whole like
all of them being like, down there and
this like golden popsicle.
He likes gold. He likes shiny
things. Like the way that he was like, I don't know where you're going with this, but I like this. Like what I'm saying. That felt,
and then he just drowns.
But then the way he was like, you thought that would work?
He literally just flies out, like shakes himself, it all comes off, like all that for that, like why?
What a waste of time.
So I don't know enough about the properties of gold to understand what their plan was, but did they think
I know it has a low melting point.
Yeah, so like would it be hot going on to him and they thought it would cool really quickly around him and like
turn into a statue?
I'm not really sure what they thought, the thinking there, that it would just be hot enough to...
Did they even know what they were doing besides Thorin? Like, Bobber was like bumping up and down on these... Maybe I imagine, I don't know.
Yeah, he was slapping the bells or something.
Like, did they know what they were doing? Or Thorin was just like, everyone do exactly what I say, trust me.
Yeah. Probably. I don't think they've ever tried to defeat a dragon before. I mean, they kind of made it pretty clear that there was no defeating this dragon at the beginning of the first movie.
Yeah, what was their plan? Was Bilbo just gonna like take a little bucket and just funnel some coins out like every other minute or something?
I guess. But they want to live there again, so it's not like they plan to just take things and leave. Like they want to be there. So
I just think they didn't really have a plan. They're like, we'll get there.
Mm-hmm.
I think they were so focused on finding the door that they
didn't think too much farther ahead.
No. And I get it. But
I've been there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We've all just kind of hoped for the best sometimes.
Mm-hmm.
Definitely a flaw in both versions. I mean, there are things that, like, I wish they had done differently, but so that we could have more Bilbo, more Smaug, like, so we could sit there in that tunnel a little bit more. I do think it would have been interesting to see.
And the Bilbo scenes are great. Like Bilbo and Smaug, Bilbo and Gollum, like they're the best scenes in the trilogy. I mean, in my opinion, but
yeah,
he's a great little guy.
He is a great little guy, and it's like Martin Freeman. He was such a good choice for Bilbo, and like there's so many, like every episode, I feel like there are these times where I'm like, I would have loved to see him do these things and say these things, but it's just really not. It's not in the cards, apparently.
Yeah, and in like the extended scenes and all the extra stuff, it's just extra. Like I said, it was like I fully skipped 20 seconds of Legolas just grappling with Volk was his name, I think.
Yeah.
And I was like, why are we getting extra of this when that's not what I want? I want more Bilbo. I want more conversation.
Who was in the writer room saying more bowl, because that's what people want.
We also have a few questions for them. We got a few. We just want to talk.
The bold department, yes.
Yeah. We were talking about the Thrush a little bit. I did want to talk about him a little bit more because I think I love the Thrush. I love him. So we've only seen him really in the movie. We saw him flying around, and then we saw him knocking. So good for him. And I don't think he gets to come back. Like we were talking about, like he doesn't. I know for a fact that they don't let Bard speak to Thrushes. They've given a different backstory for why we already know that Smaug has a vulnerability. But in the book, when he explains this, the Thrush is chilling and he's listening, kind of like when a dog listens to you with like its head cocked to one side. And I love that, like Bilbo's suspicious of this bird. Thorin is like, chill, like they're a long-lived and magical race that were tamed to the hand of Thorin's father and grandfather, and that the men of Dale used to be able to understand their language and use them for messengers. And I was just thinking about this, like, maybe this movie isn't a pony movie, but it is definitely a bird movie, because between the eagles and the thrushes, and then later we're going to get the ravens, like they affect the story in really significant ways. We were having a bird moment in The Hobbit, which I like. I like it. I like that we get to talk to birds. I can't wait for the ravens. I don't even know if they're in the movie though. Do you?
I know, I'm trying to remember. It's been a while since I've fully watched these and paid attention.
And it's the Battle of Five Armies. That one I can pretty much confirm I've only seen like twice in my whole entire life, and definitely not the extended. So
cannot explain it, but I love that movie.
I think Battle of Five Armies?
Yeah, I can't explain it. I know. I think by the time that movie came out, I was like, fuck it. I'm just gonna enjoy.
Yeah. Because I have no emotions left.
Yeah. Just like I genuinely love that movie. Like I started hating the first one, feeling about the second. I'm like,
all of your expectations were just washed away. And you were
know what? I'm here. Might as well try to enjoy it.
That's a good attitude. I like that attitude.
I know. I think that's about where we are. Like, I don't have a lot of feelings left. I'm just like, this is what happened. This is how it was different.
Yeah.
And I know we've been talking for a while now, and you may have noticed that I just completely didn't really talk about Tauriel. Like there was a lot of cutting back and forth between, Gandalf trying to get Thrain out of Dol Guldur. There was cutting back and forth.
Was there. That's an extended thing, right? He wasn't there.
I think so. I don't 100% remember, but I'm pretty sure he's an extra fun bit. And Gandalf gets captured by, we confirm that it's for sure Sauron, because, Sauron apparently can only ever look like guy in helmet silhouette. Anyway, that's what we got.
Every adaptation there is, it's always
guy in helmet.
In fire, and an eye-shaped thing of fire.
Yeah. So it's clear. You don't miss it. Sauron for sure. In case.
Yeah.
If we make all the references, so you can't miss it. And, there's fighting. Bard gets arrested for no reason in Lake Town. Keely gets healed by Tauriel. She glows for a minute. Legolas is killing some orcs.
Bleeds
his blood, yeah. And and I just look like, what is with Peter wanting to always destroy Gandalf's staff? It like disintegrates when he's in Dol Guldur, but it's like the same staff that he has in Fellowship. Why are we always doing this? We also just like randomly blast it in Return of the King with the Witch King in the movies, but it's like,
when does Radagast give him his staff? Is that in the third one?
Does he give him another one?
So I think Gandalf's staff in the beginning of The Hobbit is slightly different than when we see in Fellowship, because I think that's technically Radagast's staff. Because in the beginning of The Hobbit, Gandalf's staff kind of like ends up in a swirl at the top. But in Fellowship, it's like kind of, you know what I mean? Has that
like
kind of
branchy.
Shape. Yeah. I don't know why they had to write that in.
Right. That's my question.
Yeah.
Just like, why are we always trying to destroy his staff? Like, as if...
It's just symbolic of his power. So
yeah, but it's also just
your
like...
power is broken.
It's a little disgraceful. Like, the idea that all Gandalf has is, like, concentrated in a stick.
I feel like that's a running gag within the Wizards. He just keeps losing or destroying his staff.
Yeah, like we break Saruman. Because it also bothers me that, like, yes, Gandalf breaks Saruman's in Two Towers in the book, and a little bit in Return of the King Extended, but that wasn't like a thing that I know we don't talk about like Eru at all, like in this, but the implication is that like he wasn't doing his job and he got fired. Sauron can't fire Gandalf. Do you know what I mean? Like, you just be breaking people's sticks.
What happened to Thrain? It's just like these like weird tendrils.
That was so weird.
Black smoke just came and grabbed him, and then he's gone into some being. I didn't like into a portal. Is Sauron a portal now too? Like,
yeah.
What
comes with portals? Like the and also like the way that Gandalf was like, you can tell him yourself. Like you can tell Thorin that you love him yourself. And but like he wasn't really like holding on to him for dear life or anything. He wasn't like,
try a little bit harder.
Yeah. I don't know. I was like, so they wanted him to be alive, and also that like we know that Thrain can't get out. Like he doesn't get out. There's in the book, but like obviously Gandalf in the book is much more covert. Sauron doesn't know that he was in there and getting the key in the like that's the story. It's like he got the key in the map. The ring has already been taken, and like basically Thrain was too far gone, and he dies there. But this is just like, whoa, like he was really not willing to let him go. And I'm not really sure for at what point, because he's already got the ring. Like I just don't understand it. It's just like a lot of chaos, and for what? Yeah. And then Gandalf ends up in a cage, which is a bummer.
Bird cage.
Yeah. It's where the fell beasts hang out. I don't know. I don't know where he got it. I mean, I don't hate the last line that the last thing that Smaug says in the movie is, "I am fire, I am death." It felt very cinematic, rather than like the whole, I mean, and he does get to say that like, "I am king under the mountain" thing, but I don't hate that. And then Bilbo saying, "What have we done?" I thought was interesting as like the actual last line of the film, because I'm like, well, what else were you gonna do? Like Smaug was gonna get mad no matter what.
Yeah, there was gonna be a mad dragon, like regardless of what you guys would have done. Would have ended badly for someone.
Yeah. Maybe he just feels bad that he had a Lake Town reference in there.
I think he feels like he led the dragon to them because he says barrel rider. Or at least I think that was what it was, the connection that Smaug made in the books.
I love the way Smaug says barrel rider though.
I know.
Just the way he talks in general.
Yeah. Yeah, Benedict did the thing. I like that. I like Tolkien's dragons, and I'm sad that it's really only 2 of them that we ever get to hear from ever in the Legendarium, you know? But I just love the way they talk. They are nasty. They are mean, and I like it. They're so good at being mean. I also thought it was interesting that they like one of the changes that they make with Smaug's conversation with Bilbo is that, and I realized that they did this with Thrain and the extended, that they've implied that Sauron and Smaug are already in league. You know, the thing that Gandalf was worried about.
Say? Something like the dragon and the one.
The dragon and the one working together, yeah.
And Smaug to Bilbo says that, like, the world is going to be covered in darkness soon. Like, he's like, don't even worry about it. Things are happening.
But like, so are they communicating telepathically? Like,
maybe
who's keeping Smaug up to date?
Yeah, that is my question as well. Silly little tiny cell phone with its little claws. I don't know. Maybe it's birds. I don't like. There's no way that because there's nobody that like somebody could just like walk in there without Smaug and me. You know what I mean? Like, I don't know how that works. Obviously, in the book, this was all a preventative measure so that Sauron was not able to be in league with Smaug. You know, they changed that because things are also a little darker in this version. I wouldn't say darker like in tone necessarily, but they are trying to have darker things also happening in the background. So Smaug is already chilling with Sauron. So would love to know what their coffee chats are like. I'm sure that they're like dastardly as fuck.
Super evil.
Yeah. Just I know that we never actually get to see it. It's obviously happened.
Fun to imagine. Yeah.
I know. I'm like, see, that's the kind of extended stuff that I want to see. Which it's also funny because they also have Benedict doing like the voice of the necromancer / Sauron in these movies. So it's really just Benedict talking to himself.
He sounds very snake-like as Sauron.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if I'm just thinking of like Harry Potter for some reason, but
yeah,
it's like high-pitched kind of.
Mm-hmm.
That weird like flash of the eye, like back and forth. Like
that was weird.
Like how long is this gonna last?
Yeah, I was like, whoa, this is still happening.
Yeah.
I don't know if there's anything else you guys want to talk about in relation to like Tauriel, Kili, Bard, but I'm also happy to just leave it.
Yeah, I'm cool with that.
Okay. Cool.
And actually, just one thing, just the fact that Bard just has been using the arrow like as a spice rack or something. Right. Just like nobody ever noticed. He's like, by the way, like taking down.
Yeah,
I'm here the whole time.
And his son was like mad that he hadn't told him about it. I'm like, I was literally just sitting there. Like, you probably stuck stuff on it at one point.
You're probably don't go out much in like town, so you've seen it. You know,
you've definitely seen it.
I actually took it out of my bookshelf. Hold on. I do have a replica of it. Cool. I feel like this is hard. I feel like this is hard to miss.
Mm-hmm.
Just this part. The other part's too big to show. Yeah. But this is like hard to miss. It's gigantic.
Yeah. I know.
Get that. That is awesome.
I got it something like 6 years ago or something on. I'll get you the website. I forget what it's called. It begins with a B. But I mean, I do like the design. I think John Howe did it.
Yeah.
I do like that. Yeah,
so
I
think this was hanging in your house and you've never noticed it's super.
Yeah, I mean, that is obviously
thing.
Yeah.
There's no way that little boy did not see that and ask about it.
Or his daughters.
Yeah, they were hanging spices on it. They're putting stuff there. So funny. But yeah, I also do think that it makes sense that they like design, because obviously in the book they call it a black arrow, but I don't think it's supposed to be like this metal giant thing. And now, you know, in the movie they give it like they give that contraption a name, like a dwarvish something or other.
Windlance.
Yes.
Yeah.
And so like I get that they wanted the black arrow to be like
a thing. Like,
Yeah, Bard is in jail for absolutely no reason.
Just don't like him.
Yeah. Just
also I keep forgetting Alfred's exists.
I try to forget Alfred's.
Yeah.
Every time he comes up, I'm like, oh, okay, right.
That's valid. Like he should not be there. And he's
He's like
just
the gross
icky.
version of Wormtongue, who's already gross.
Yeah, but like they made it's like a caricature at this point. Like he's just goofy as heck with the eyebrow.
Yeah. And the Master of Lake Town's also not all
He's
that great.
nasty as well. He's ew.
He always looks wet.
He does. And like
No.
in a damp way. Like
I'm glad you understand what I'm trying to say.
Yeah. Just like he's just like sweating a little bit all the time.
Yeah, like but like and he's like I'm sure that he's clammy, like 100%. You know,
because for some reason Lake Town's frozen at this time of the year, as Andie pointed out earlier.
It's like
that's true.
September. It's like October.
Yeah. The frozen wasteland. They just eat fish. That's it.
Nasty. You know, you saying that reminds me. I remember one time. I think it was one of the first episodes we were talking about Wormtongue, and Anna was like, "Is that?" She was talking about how icky he was, and like her impression was that he would be like a little bit wet and also smell a little like pee.
Yeah.
That was like the Wormtongue vibe.
Yeah.
You know, like what I mean when I say like a wet towel.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's Alfred, and the Master of Lake Town, and Wormtongue. Yeah, all of them.
It's a little different category of guy. It's so funny that they went with that look and feel for the Master of Lake Town too.
Like even though he talks,
he's
like,
an elected official
the whole time.
Yeah, like he's an elected official. I maybe in today's world, sure, but like I just don't feel like the people of Lake Town are like into an icky vibe.
Like you're gonna listen to him talk.
Yeah.
You're gonna like gather in the square or whatever, how Lake Town is laid out, and listen to him.
Right. I just don't see them going to the polls and being like, yeah, that guy seems legit.
But I think in the movie, did they like hint that he maybe didn't get his position fairly because because Alfred's like, oh, they're gonna have elections.
They're afraid of an election. Yeah, it kind of seems like they haven't had one in a long time. I guess they're not on a schedule. They're just like, if they're feeling it, if they're like, I don't like this anymore, we'll vote someone else in. They're just very chill about it. That's
even though like everyone's miserable.
Yeah. It's too sad in Lake Town. I just don't I don't like that they went with the super sad vibe with Lake Town. I just don't think that's fair to the people there. I don't think that would have been accurate. I don't get it.
Yeah, they're all pretty depressed. You know when Gimli's like, you get more cheer in a graveyard when he goes to Erebor? It's like that.
It is like that. That is movie Lake Town for sure. Other than that, I'm not sure if I had any other thoughts.
I mean, there probably are, but like...
There probably are, that maybe I just don't want to
think about them. Yeah, exactly.
True.
Yeah. I do like the end credits song, I See Fire.
There's some pretty good end credit songs. I do also think that it's interesting that like they did all boys or men or guys for the end credit songs for The Hobbit, but all of the ones for Lord of the Rings were women.
I know. But it was perfect to end with Billy. Just like to jump straight
that
forward to the last
was
movie.
perfect. Yeah. I felt like there was maybe one thought that I was like, I'll save it if it comes up, and now I don't remember what
from which storyline. There's like 6 to choose from.
I You're not wrong. Oh, I wrote down that when Azog says we are Legion, I was like, it's so corny. I was like, why did you say that? There's so many parts of this where I'm like, this is a video game.
I vaguely remember that. I think just because I blocked those moments out.
Yeah, because I've liked the Dol Guldur parts mostly up until this, but then I was like, this is just corny and too much. There's just what
are they doing? Like, they're just like breeding in there and like practicing fighting. What are they doing?
Yeah, I guess his little mini Mordor. I don't know, like mini Mordor, because I just think everybody knows, especially because you cliffhanger like at the end of the first movie, you give us a little Smaug sneak peek. You know that he's gonna be the highlight of this movie. Why cut back and like they are so desperate to cut back and forth between all this other ridiculousness that they have on it. It's like even with Gollum they do that, like why can't we just have a moment to sit with your best part of your movie and not be distracted by all this other craziness.
Another gross character, the Great Goblin. Just a lot of gross.
Things get gross in The Hobbit. That is for sure. From the snot to the pus to the master of Lake Town, like eating literal balls.
Yeah. I mean, that's what the Goblin King, well, the Great Goblin also looks like. Just like, you know?
Yeah, like balls with bed sores.
Yeah. That's disgustingly like the most perfect description, actually. Yeah.
And we are all worse for it.
I don't think it benefited anybody, honestly.
Who got
I took
joy
a
out of
graphic
that?
novel class in college, like drawing. And I
Yeah.
think we had to draw like villains or something, and I don't know where my mind went, but I'm like, I'm gonna draw the Great Goblin. So I had to like study his face and
You had
draw
to
it out.
look
Like,
it up more than you.
and the whole
Why
time
would
I'm
you do
like,
that
this
to
was a
yourself?
mistake. This was a mistake. I don't know why I did this to myself.
Oh, I did write down like in another one of these like self-referential things when Smaug says like flee, run for your lives. I was like, okay, Denethor.
I immediately heard Denethor's voice.
And I was like, you got it. I'm like,
You just need somebody to smack Smaug right afterwards.
I do. Just dunk. Like the way that I'm just like, guys, did we just run out of all the things that we could possibly say? Or is it that you're just so focused on being like, hey, remember we did those movies too? You know, like that's what it feels like every time, like they're smacking you over the head with it. Like, hey,
I think that one's a little more deep cut. I feel like a casual viewer wouldn't have caught that.
So like, it's just like they're like, I don't know what to write here. Let's pull a Denethor.
Yeah. Because that's where your mind goes, right? Every time you need some lines.
Yeah.
Denethor.
Yeah. They're like, Smaug and Denethor could chill. They could hang.
Yeah.
I mean, I really did not pay that much attention to like Tauriel and Bard and the orcs. I tried to pay a little bit of attention to Gandalf because he's my fave. He ends up captured. I'm sure that's gonna lead to a lot of fun shenanigans for us next time.
Yeah, this one chapter ended up lasting like an hour in the movie.
It did.
It was a lot.
It was.
When I'm going back to watch it for this, I'm like, oh man, I gotta start here.
Yeah.
And watch till the end. I'm like, oh, okay, I guess.
I know. I feel like that's happened to us before. Maybe with Two Towers, where we finally get to the last chapter that they're going to cover in the movie, and it's like Helm's Deep, so they make it last like an hour, even though Tolkien does not focus that much on battle sequences. But Helm's Deep, it's at least fun to watch. Not that, I mean, like there are parts of this that we have admitted that were fun to watch, but there was just a lot that I felt like took away from some of the other stuff going on.
Yeah, it took away from Bilbo.
Yeah. It's hurtful to me personally when they do that.
He's my favorite Tolkien character, so I get it.
Yeah. And he's the best guy in this book. And even like let us hang out with Smaug more, but we don't even do that. Because, we could have done it where we have like the two interactions with him, and like I kind of wanted to see him sleepy boy with his belly out, or curled up like a cat or whatever.
Getting comfortable, nestled into all the gold.
Yeah, it's
Which
like,
is not comfortable. Like a bed of gold coins.
There's no way.
It's very hard. That does not sound
like Scrooge McDuck, how he would like swim in his gold.
Yes.
I imagine Smaug just like goes all deep in there and just like, this is nice. Yeah.
Yeah, that's gotta be interesting laying on that. Like even book version where he lays on top of it. I know that Bilbo mentions that it's like encrusted with gems and stuff because he's laid on it for so long. And I'm like, okay, so like what is enabling them to stick? Is he sticky?
Ew. I wonder if anybody's asked that question about Smaug before.
I don't know.
I think I just pictured it more getting stuck in the scales.
Yeah, but like because he's like, they're like, did they just get wedged in there? Because just the way he describes himself as like this armored beast, like he's got no openings or like vulnerabilities. I mean, obviously he doesn't know about. I wonder what happened. Did he have like I wonder how that one popped out. Scale go bad. Maybe that is the situation, like that there is at least some kind of gapping to where that these gems can get stuck. Maybe it like
loosened it.
Yeah. I don't know. I'm just trying to understand. Maybe I shouldn't. Callie's like, Andie, give him a rest.
We are
you have to isolate when you said, is Smaug sticky? Just like isolate that one clip.
Sticky.
Is he? I don't know. I feel like our bad guys are always like a little bit nasty, so probably.
Might as well. Yeah.
Might as well. Stinky and sticky.
I feel like Smaug doesn't stink though. Except for his breath.
Breath for sure. Yeah, I don't imagine him being like, I mean, yeah, he's not like Shelob with a reek, you know what I mean?
Yeah, you're right. Yeah, the villains do stink.
They stink.
The more I think about them, yeah.
They're more likely to stink, for sure, for sure. I definitely think that Tolkien would have said if Bilbo would have been like, you know, affronted with a stench. I don't think that really happens. But we do get a glow. That is one thing that I thought would have been interesting visually if they had because Bilbo was able to see this glow, and it's not like a light. It's emitting from Smaug himself. And I'm just thinking, like, we do see kind of when he opens his mouth that like the embers kind of like flare up, whatever. Because obviously there's no mechanism to make a real creature spit fire, so like whenever he kind of opens it up, you can kind of see that there's this thing that's ready to go. So it makes me think that maybe like in his belly or something that would make him most of him glow, like whatever he's got going on there to make him spit fire gives him kind of like a glow that could light up the whole room, which I think that kind of would have been an interesting take. They obviously like have the actual room lit. They don't like dwell on the fact that he's like deep under the mountain or anything. I don't know, but that could have been an interesting take on Smaug's design. But it's fine. He does ultimately look pretty damn good, all things considered.
Yeah, I thought
he definitely one of the highlights.
Well, yeah. Slinky.
Yeah,
I know when he like glides across the top of the gold. He's having fun. I feel like that was fun for him.
Yeah, I think so. Smaug's living his best life, really. Until
now.
I know.
Does he not have to eat?
It doesn't sound like he really does. I feel like there may have been a reference at one point to him like picking off some like other types of people, but yeah, I don't think that he has to like eat on a consistent basis to like survive. And honestly, do things like Balrogs even need to eat? I don't think our critters that aren't like, especially like our bad guys, I don't think that they have to like eat.
But then in the book, Smaug has like a very well honed sense of taste and palate. He's like, I know what a dwarf-ridden pony tastes like.
That's true. Got a good.
He has an advanced palate,
So he's eaten enough, I would say, but I don't know if
he necessarily.
Yeah, but I don't know if he necessarily needed to.
So he just ate the ponies just because.
Oh yeah, that's for
yeah.
sure. He's eaten 6 of them so far. There's still a few more.
Will that even like fill him up?
I doubt it. I mean, he's a pretty big boy. Because that makes me think. So if we are thinking like whole legendarium thing, like how would you feed someone like in Calagon? There's no way.
I feel like he would just go out and eat a whole field of
wipe out a whole civilization.
Yeah, literally. So I don't think that he would need to so much as he would do it because he felt like it. They live off of spite. Truly.
I respect that.
Fueled by hate for no reason. But we'll find out more about what. Actually, I think it's gonna be interesting next time, honestly, because I feel like there's gonna be some more intercutting. Because obviously this time they're intercutting between things that don't happen, so it's fine. We can keep it all to one chapter. But Not at Home, chapter 13 is one where they are just stuck in the mountain and they don't know what's going on. Bilbo and the dwarves, they don't know what's going on with Smaug. They don't know what's going on with Lake Town. They just kind of wait. So that'll be interesting to see how we have to handle that one. If they like cut back and forth between the scenarios.
When's the last time you saw Battle of the Five Armies?
A long
Been a
time
while.
ago. Yeah. And I've definitely never seen the extended one, so I don't even know if there's other stuff in this part. I don't know. We're going to do chapter 13, Not at Home, and obviously the beginning of Peter Jackson's Battle of Five Armies.
Weirdly enough, my favorite.
I know, that's so funny.
I know.
We'll come back anytime, Myla. If anybody can like find joy, then
in the Battle.
come on.
There are things I hate about it though, but overall, it's like my favorite.
Well, maybe we'll do a wrap up episode like we did with Lord of the Rings. We'll be like, okay, Myla, what did you like about that?
Explain your choices.
Yes.
Yeah. I could.
Cool.
I think they're mostly to do with Bard and little silly scenes, but yeah, overall, you know what? I'm just gonna try to have a good time.
Embrace it. Yeah, I like that. I try. And then there's some things where I'm like, no, that would have been really nice to see, or like,
why did you do that?
Yeah, I'm not so much like mad anymore about the things that they're doing. I'm just kind of like,
why?
I'm just not impressed. I'm just like, I'm not.
We know you're capable of so much more.
That's the thing.
Yeah.
That's the thing right there.
I get it. And it's true.
But you know, this is what we got. So this is what we're talking about.
Make the best of it, yeah.
Yeah. Thank you both so much for being here. Does everyone want to give a roundup of where they can find you on the interwebs if they forgot? They should know by now. But if they forgot, or they're skipping around in episodes, then here's your chance. Follow our friends.
I'm Myla Malinalda everywhere. That's it.
Cool.
And tell us about the Malinalda name. I liked that.
So Malinalda is actually another word for laurelin, one of the two trees.
So
one day I was like over a decade ago, I was reading the Silmarillion or attempting to read it. I'm like, that's a pretty word. Yeah, I'm gonna take, because I needed a sort of online persona at that time, because I joined this Tolkien news site called Miller's News, and I needed like a name for myself. And the alliteration's fun. So
that is fun.
Yeah, and it rolls so well.
I love it.
It's a very pretty word. So
that's awesome.
That is a very obscure fact right there for you guys. That's
yeah.
I know, and like, not to make it seem I'm a Silmarillion expert, because I'm like the complete opposite of that.
We were just looking for some nice words, and that is a nice word. We are Tolkien with Friends on Instagram. You can find us at TolkienWithFriends.com. Wherever. We're also on YouTube now at Tolkien with Friends, which is great that they added the ability to easily have a handle. So that's also at Tolkien with Friends. I'm a little bit on Twitter, but that was too long, so just Tolkien Friends. And we're also on Patreon, and Myla is one of our patrons. Yay! Thank you so much, Myla. We release some of our notes. We have special bonus content, like we just added a whole extra like 20 plus minutes with Kelly from the middle page on there. So more stuff coming. So be sure to join us on there. You can join for any amount. And it just helps support the podcast and all the things that we're doing over here. So hope to see you over there, and thank you both so much for being here. This was really a lot of fun. Can't say I'm sad to see Desolation of Smaug go, but anxious about starting the Battle of Five Armies, so I'm in a weird place. But we will see you for both Not at Home and Peter Jackson's Battle of Five Armies next time.